You're listening to this week's episode of the Vacation Rental Business in Today's World podcast. You're about to start transforming your business and life with the information found here. We interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in the vacation short-term rental industry and supporting businesses. The information found here is a combination of brain science, transformational thinking, safety and loss prevention, and vacation short-term rental knowledge and experiences, all rolled into one to help you and your business to achieve levels you never thought possible. I am glad you are here, and now please welcome your host, Eric Thibodeaux.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Safer VRs podcast. I'm Eric Thibodeaux, and I'm glad you're here. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody about our Awakening Vacation Rental Safety membership group. We're still looking for founding members there who want to join and be part of that group. And we also have a free Facebook group called Safer Vacation Rentals. I encourage you to sign up. We have over 100 people in that group and would love for you to come and join and add your content and community to us. So today I'm recording this on October 9th, and this week is actually National Fire Prevention Week. And I've been involved with National Fire Prevention Week since I was 15 years old. I was in the fire department. When I started off, I was in high school, and the fire department was right across from the school. And they were short people. Matter of fact, I went back home and visited with some of the fire department members that are there today in my hometown, and they're still short members. And they're going to have to start paying people, it looks like, instead of being all volunteer. So I joined the fire department when I was 15. And basically the next year, we started presenting at school about National Fire Prevention Week to the elementary and middle school children. And so it's been something I've been really involved with throughout the years. I enjoy it quite a bit. I did it when I was in the fire department, and I did it when I was in college, and even when I've been working and going to different schools and teaching about fire prevention. So it's definitely a passion of mine, working and preventing fires and educating about fire prevention. So we think back to about how did National Fire Prevention Week actually start, and why is it in the month of October? So on October 8th, the Great Chicago Fire started 151 years ago. We celebrate, if we will celebrate maybe, 151 years ago, that fire. It was a pretty devastating fire, started on the southwest side of the city and burned approximately 3.3 square miles. 300 people died, 17,000 structures damaged, and over 100,000 homes were destroyed. Now, at the time, the Chicago Fire Department was, let's say, one of the top fire departments in the U.S., maybe. In 1871, they had 185 firefighters and 17 horse-drawn steam pumpers to protect the entire city. So the fire started on the southwest side, and we always hear this legendary story, maybe you've heard it, about the Miss O'Leary's cow was the one that actually started the fire. So in those days, in 1871, if you imagine city of Chicago, and I've been there lots of times and I worked there for a while, the city at that time was primarily wood frame construction, okay, and what they call balloon frame construction. And that existed probably until the 1920s. And these are these very tall, in the house, you may have a 2 or 3 story home or building. And between each floor in today's world, we will have fire stops so that fires don't continue to escalate vertically along the sides of the house up. And then fire spreads up and out. And so it quickly moves through these balloon frame constructed houses. It gets to the roof. And then the roof in this particular time in 1871 was tar and pitch roof. So a lot of combustible and flammable materials like the tar on the roof that accelerate the fire. Now, the fire in itself could grow with the wind. It was very dry. About a 1 inch of rain had occurred in a 4 or 5 month period in the city of Chicago. So you have these dry conditions, you have the wind, you have the wood frame construction, the roof construction, and a very congested area of the town and of the city. So heat transfer, in this case, is radiant heat load. So heat transfers through conduction, metal to metal, convection through the air, and then radiant heat load. And at the time, this radiant heat load was just transferring over, and it was so intense that it would ignite wood or the tar on the adjacent buildings. So the fire spread super fast. The fire department actually got a really good call, and they responded very quickly. However, you can imagine there's no GPS, there's nothing. So the watchman in the area, the police watchman, directed the fire department to the wrong location. So, when we think about one of the life-saving rules here in Safer VRs is know the address that you're at. So in those days, a call box comes in and it's like on the corner somewhere near the location. So the city knows how many rings and knows where this call box is, and they respond. But they don't know exactly where the fire's at. So they don't know it's at 123 O'Leary's house. So they struggle to find it, and the fire continues to spread as they went to the wrong location. And this helped the fire grow. And so it turned into small fire into what's called a conflagration. And a conflagration is a large fire that spreads fairly quickly in a short period of time. So by the 10th of October, the fire was to be extinguished. And I was at the VRMA Spring Forum, and I'll post on LinkedIn and Facebook a little bit about this, but I saw some pictures. Like I said, I had studied some of this before, but when you look at the map of the city of what was actually destroyed, it's really, really amazing about how that was damaged, how much of the city was damaged. And so if we go back to the beginning when we talk about how it started, the O'Leary family was really oppressed when this occurred. Matter of fact, it spread through generations of their family, even though a few years later, since the fire started at night, an individual confessed to the fire and what he was involved with in this part of town. He was involved in an illegal card game that was getting busted up by the police, and he escaped, went through the barn, knocked over the lantern, starting the fire. So there's a lot of stories about it, but let's go with this one. And so basically, as we often hear or know, when information comes out about a situation, whether it's the initial report or whatever, it's been my experience, it's about 20% correct. So we focus on the problem, resolving the problem, and then we worry about how things happen later. So it comes to be, it wasn't really a cow. And why does that matter when you're fighting a massive fire? And then the O'Learys basically even being exonerated, probably up until maybe 1 decade, 15 years ago, received a formal apology from the city of Chicago for the persecution and the affliction that their family suffered through the years because of this great fire. So there's so much that happened here. There were fire code issues, there was emergency response issues, there were just general precautions, building codes. A lot of things happened at that moment that caused let's say, the National Fire Protection Association to be formed and to eventually begin working to address this and the multitude of issues that as a society grows and you have buildings, you have different individual perspectives about how things are, kind of like in the vacation short-term rental industry, right? We experience this. However, we get down to building codes, fire codes, different permits, different issues. A lot of this originated from this fire. So this week, NFPA announces the National Fire Prevention Week, where we look to share and educate with people in the communities. I'm sharing with you in the great vacation rental, short-term rental industry that we are working in, that we need to look at how we're preventing and protecting our guests and our owners in fire situations. And we could go through a lot of different scenarios. I think just general fire protection precautions about open flames. When I look at things, it's about prevention. I want to be proactive to prevent these situations from occurring. Open flames, spreading of fire, the heat convection. That's why I mentioned the convection, radiant heat that gets transferred about where our barbecue pits are, where our grills are, where our fire pits are. All these things that we educate about are really important to keep our guests safe. And then I'll end on this last one piece here about smoke alarms. So we have the detector and the alarm together. They don't have to be, but most of the time they are. They have ionization and photoelectric, or a combination of these devices. And you can go take a look. I have some of this information in my Awakening Vacation Rental Safety group membership. we'd love to have you in there. But anyway, really, one of the things to focus on is if you still have battery-operated smoke and alarms in your property, this is the week that typically we encourage people to go and change those out. Test them, change the battery, and then see if you can hear them, right? They got to have a loud enough decibel, and I'd say probably around 85 to 90 decibel range, and see if you can hear them from upstairs and downstairs. In today's modern world, and we just put these in a property that we just purchased, we took all the old ones out and put interconnected smoke alarms in the property. And so when one activates, they all activate in a loud enough fashion because it's a 2-story house. This is really important. This house is also old, built in the 1870s, probably around the time of the Great Chicago Fire. And we wanted to confirm or know that, hey, when there's an alarm in the kitchen, it's heard upstairs in the different bedrooms. It's really important. There's been recent fatalities about this. So during National Fire Prevention Week, I urge you, I plead with you as a vacation rental owner, manager, and investor, and a fire protection and safety engineer, take time this week to go and check the batteries. Test all of the smoke alarms in your vacation or short-term rental properties. And if they're not functioning, make it a priority to get this fixed, right? People's lives depend upon it. Your business could very well depend upon it. And these are all easily preventable actions that can be taken to safeguard our guests. So in 151 years, we've grown and learned from the Great Chicago Fire, and it still teaches us lessons today, as we've talked about. So I highly encourage you to go check your systems, check your procedures for how you respond to a fire. Do you have the address and emergency numbers? Do you have the address of the property? All this key information is really there. And I cover these in the 9 life-saving rules for vacation rentals because it's so important. So take time this week, National Fire Prevention Week, have a discussion with your teams and go out and create a safe day. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Safer VR's podcast with Eric Thibodeaux. If you enjoy this, I would love you to join my Facebook group, The Safer Vacation Rentals, for more of the same. You can also join our email list at www.safervrs.com.